You're listening to Three's a Crowd, the North East Footy Podcast, with Rye for Boro, Steve for Newcastle United, and Ted for Sunderland.
Good morning, everybody. Happy Saturday. Welcome to Three's a Crowd, the only North East football podcast where we bring Sunderland, Newcastle, and Middlesbrough fans together for a bit of banter, a bit of laughter, a bit of poking of the bears. I'm joined once and for all by Ted the Macam and Steve Wraith. Good morning to you, Mr. Ted the Macam.
Good morning, gents. It's nice to have the three of us back together and all on camera. I think that's the first time we've actually done that in weeks now. So yeah, nice to have the three of us all together again.
Listen, some people say that we're fake friends, but I think, down deep there is some love there.
We're just fake. We're not friends, no.
Mr. Stevie Wraith, good morning to you, sir.
Morning, lads. How are you doing? You okay?
Yeah, doing good, mate. Doing good. Middlesbrough kicked things off with a fantastic win in the Carabao Cup last night. We're going to cover that. Middlesbrough's transfer window seemingly one of the best ever we've ever had. Teddy Boy is fresh off America. What can we say about Newcastle United that hasn't already been said on NUFC Matters this week? Oh, my goodness me. We've got a lot to cover as it rolls in. Season is upon us. We are in August. Middlesbrough kicked it off last night, lads, in the Carabao Cup, getting a 1-0 win over Wrexham. The Ryan Reynolds have gone down to the mart of Middlesbrough. Will Lancashire getting his first goal in a competitive game for Middlesbrough. It was a fantastic outing at the Riverside. Carabao Cup kicking our season off because of the World Cup. Bit of a change in scheduling. It was a weird feeling, lads. It was a weird feeling having a Carabao Cup as your first game of the season, first competitive match. But it was something that was welcome because it was kind of like you could take the shackles off a little bit. You could, look, everyone wants a nice little cup run, but when you're in the championship, you've got to say the focus is the league because you want to get out of it. Do you know what I mean? And one thing that I thought last night was Middlesbrough, we were buoyed by new signings, especially Will Lancashire, Sebastian Berhalter, Max Afton, who started 3 days ago. But Teddy Boy, we got the chocolates over your favourites, Wrexham, who you'd just come off a nice little American tour with. 1-0 win for Middlesbrough at home.
Yeah, it is weird, isn't it, starting with a cup game? But I think that's just a sign of the times. I've been keeping an eye on the Cypriot teams over here, just on the off chance that Sunderland might actually get drawn against them in the Europa League. So I think, like, the likes of Paphos actually started their season mid-July and started playing qualifying rounds for that. So I mean, that's a month and a half away from any league game. So yeah. It's the new way, I mean, I know over many times this season we'll talk about money in football, but unfortunately that's what it is. But yes, enjoyed your watch along last night, mate. I popped in a couple of times. Thanks for not acknowledging the message.
Good. Yep, I ignore it. I'm pretty sure you're banned.
Should be. I definitely should be cancelled. Yeah. No, really good win because that was a potential nasty one. That I well and truly expect Wrexham to be up there with Middlesbrough by the end of the season in the league. And they've had a good pre-season. They've beaten Leeds, they've beaten Man United, but listen, when it comes down to it, it's competitive games that matter, and it's a huge step up from that kind of that tempo, isn't it? So yeah, Lancashire. Listen, I said last season when we played against him when he was on loan at Oxford, Luke O'Nien was very complimentary about him as well. He's a unit of a centre forward, and I think he's a great signing for you. I think he'll get a hatful in that league. He's a more physical version of Ross Stewart for me, and that's I don't mean injury prone and crocked all the time. I mean a really good centre forward for championship level. So listen, pleased for you. I've already given. I know we're going to cover that off later. I've already given my predictions. I think the transfer activity for Middlesbrough so far has been exemplary. I think they've spent the money well that's been raised. So. Yeah, can't say that fairer than that, mate. It's a really good start, and you're in the next round.
Yeah, no, I'm very excited, obviously. It was Steve saying in the chat, it was like a friendly last night, good times ahead for Boro. It really did have a friendly sort of feeling to it. Half the stadium was closed off as well, but Carabao Cup to kick our season off. Thank you, World Cup. Morning, guys. Love the show. Great result for the Boro and great goal for Lancashire. You're not wrong. You're not wrong, Denny. Thank you for joining us. Don't worry, Rye. We might be joining you next season, says Toon Army. Oh, my goodness me. It is still times at Newcastle. Stevie Wraith, good morning to you, mate. Middlesbrough getting their season off with a win in the Carabao Cup last night, mate. A cup that you are quite familiar with still, obviously, in recent times, mate. But it was a good one to get early doors for Middlesbrough after a heap of new signings.
Yeah, and a few quid in the bank as well from TV coverage, which is always handy for any club that's spending as Middlesbrough are this summer. One of the best transfer windows for Middlesbrough in many a year. And Lancashire could be the signing of the season in the Championship. There's no doubt about it. If you can keep him fit, he'll score goals. And it's an interesting time. It's almost as if there's been a bit of an awakening at the Riverside. It's almost as if people behind the scenes have gone, yeah, look, we have invested, but we've also sold a lot of our key players over the last 4 or 5 years. We've come so close. We've been, the bridesmaid, but never the bride. And it's as if, Steve Gibson, look, he's ploughed a lot of money, and we've said it many times on this show. That guy, lives and breathes Middlesbrough. He's, his family do, and he's run that club very, very well. But I think somewhere along the lines it's been a conversation, and they've said let's let the shackles off. We've got to stop the rot, as in letting players go.
Yeah.
And we've got to really spend some money to get up to the Premier League this time, at the first time of asking. It was a devastating blow for Middlesbrough last season. They should have gone up automatically. The faltered, ended up in that situation that they did, and then ultimately had a second bite of the cherry and didn't manage to take that either. So for me personally, and I know Ted's the same. You want to see them come up. You want to see all three teams in the Premier League. Yep. It's been so long since that happened, and it would be absolutely fantastic to see the three Northeast teams going for it against each other. It would be absolutely brilliant. So yeah, let's see what happens. Good result last night. Middlesbrough will be focused more on the league, of course, than the Carabao Cup. There's nothing wrong with getting knocked out the cups early, put it that way. I think the flip side of it, of course, is that winning games breeds that kind of success but you want to focus on getting back in the Premier League. So the Carabao Cup's a nice little distraction. It had that kind of feeling of a friendly last night. It certainly did. And you can't buy success though. Look at Wrexham. Wrexham has spent a hell of a lot of money in recent years. Yep. They've got the Hollywood owners, and from my perspective, it's they're going to push you hard this season. There's definitely a chance that they're going to be there or thereabouts again. So yeah, exciting times. Good to see football back, and good to see football back on our tellies as well. So not long until the Premier League takes off as well.
No, not long at all. Obviously, Middlesbrough kick off their season next weekend against Lincoln. They're newly promoted from League One, but a great win for Middlesbrough. And good to see some new signings. And USA, am I right? Donald Trump, love us. Get on the phone if you need to. I tell you, you've already done it once. Obviously, we've got to cover, what's been happening on your two neckles of the woods. Speaking of USA, Teddy Boy, Sunderland, fresh off their trip. I want to hear about them. But I'd be amiss if I wasn't to talk about another Newcastle week, Stevie Wraith. It's been a massive week again for you. We obviously missed you on last week's show, mate. I feel like we did it justice, Teddy Boy. I feel like we covered Newcastle in great depth. Were we sympathetic?
I was actually very sensible, Steve. I was actually very sensible about this.
I was sensible too. I didn't laugh.
Bullshit.
I shed a tear. Because we obviously went live last week. We had just heard the Eddie Howe news, and I was actually quite shocked because of the timing of his resignation, and obviously the news that was coming out that it had been sort of in the works and that. But mate, another big week for Newcastle. You've got your new manager. How are you feeling over in your neck of the woods?
Yeah, it's been a weird summer. Nothing is ever dull at St James's Park, and let's start with Eddie. Eddie obviously came out with his statement after he left and more or less said that he'd been contemplating leaving at the end of the season. And then he went on holiday, give it a bit more thought. And then from his perspective, decided, that he couldn't take the club any further, which, is fair enough. And the stories goes that he was persuaded to hang on. Maybe he's given it a bit more thought. Who did that? Why they did it? Not sure. But it's inevitably ended with 3 weeks to go that he ends up leaving the club, and the timing's not great. 3 weeks before the start of a season. The last time that happened in Newcastle was 1985, and Jack Charlton walked out after getting a bit of stick in a friendly against Sheffield United, and it just throws the club into a bit of turmoil. But I do get the feeling we're not being told the truth, completely about this whole thing. I do feel that decisions were probably made by the chief executive, in that big get together when Saudi came over. You can read between the lines. I can't take credit for it. Steve Hasty said on the Amigos after we heard David Hopkinson, with 7 or 8 games to go, he more or less said, that's when decisions will be made. Yeah. I think the club and Eddie probably came to some kind of amicable agreement that was going to be it. The sticking point seems to be to get Matthias Jassel, whatever we're going to call him, MJ. He's basically been contracted, and Newcastle have clearly wanted him. He comes with a glowing reference from the clubs he's been at, but he doesn't have vast experience. But then how many managers have come into the Premier League in recent years at places like Brighton and Bournemouth and Sunderland, and have been virtual unknowns and done very well. So not many Sunderland fans would have known who Lebris was before he walked into the corridors of the Stadium of Light. So this is where we're at. Newcastle United are following the other clubs in the Premier League, and they've also at this moment in time, when Howe was still in charge, gone for a complete reset. None of us would complain or dispute the fact that Anthony Gordon didn't really play well last season, or Tonali, in the key games, in the key games that turned up in the big games, in the Champions League, but in big games, in the Premier League, they were missing. So nobody shed any tears over either of those players. Bruno was slightly different. Bruno's your captain. He's a renowned badge kisser. His kids were born in the northeast. That departure is always going to affect the fan base in a different way. I think from a financial point of view, I think it's a good deal. When we never get the full SP on what the deal is. The press are reporting 75 million. Of course, they can say then that Leon's getting their percentage, so Newcastle's only getting 68 million, but nobody really knows what we're actually getting. I've seen reports suggest that with add-ons, etc., and Bruno relinquishing his bonus, if that's true, Newcastle are clearing more towards 80-85 million. So we don't know, but look, he's 29 in a week's time. And for us to get that kind of price for him is it's a good deal. It's just that the timing of it is unfortunately coming at a time when we've ripped the heart of the midfield out. It'll be interesting to see who stays, because Joe Linton was reportedly chasing a move to Saudi. Again, what the foundation of that story is, I really don't know. But on the flip side of that, Joe Linton has he has history with the manager. He was a young player at Hoffenheim when Jassel was at the club as well, as a senior pro before he got his bad injury. So they know each other. There's a potential there. Could Joe Linton be the new captain of Newcastle United? There could be that kind of carrot to dangle. There's money there now, which from our perspective is a positive. A lot. There's money there to spend from the Isaac transfer and what we've let go now, and we've still got players there who can make a difference. We've got £250 million worth of talent last summer who didn't gel in Eddie Howe's formation and ultimately could really respond to the new manager in Alanga, Wissa and Waldemar. So it's not all doom and gloom, although midweek this week I literally was probably down as you can get, because the whole Bruno thing was really disappointing for me. I would like to have kept Bruno. I'd love to have given him at least another year, a little pay rise. and I'd like to have seen him bring on the players and bring on the youngsters. I think it's just almost too much disruption. But you know what? It is what it is, and we've just got to accept that. This is football now, and we see where we go. And part of you thinks, okay, well, this could be positive. I think the appetite for this season was probably reinvigorated a little bit when I heard the new manager speak. He looks as if he looks like a Pardew character on looks. He looks like if he was chocolate, he was eat himself kind of character. But when you actually hear him, when you hear him talk, he speaks well. The media certainly had their little meeting with him, and that seemed to be actually quite a positive thing. You can obviously tell sometimes from the media how they're going to get on with him, and that seemed quite positive. So I think that I thought
he was quite open as well. I think he needed to be, right.
Yeah, he came over quite well. And he's honest. He was very honest about that. The confirmation that Newcastle didn't want to sell Bruno, that Bruno wanted to leave was quite a statement which came out from David Hopkinson this week. And of course, listen, I would prefer Hopkinson to be a man of action rather than a man of words. I get it that people were asking for communication from the owner, and that always comes from the CEO. And I think what Hopkinson said, some of it was quite positive. What can he say? It is a reset. Newcastle 2.0 is the kind of speak that these kind of businessmen give from that part of the Atlantic, that side of the Atlantic. So, calling the manager MJ and a rock star was a bit nauseating. But other than that, the rest of it was okay. You're going to give us an answer on. You're going to give us some news on the stadium at some point, which at least we know that. We know that we're going to get a new club crest. You're speaking to the fans about that, which is positive. And this is a reset, which had to be done because we are still battling the Premier League and the financial side of things. So, from my perspective, it's been an up and down week emotionally, as was the week before. But yeah, I'm in that kind of place now where you've just got to accept it. You're always going to support the team. You're always going to support the new manager. And well done to Eddie. You had 5 great years. And I mean that because even last year we got to the semi-finals of the Carabao Cup. We got the furthest we've ever got in the Champions League. We weren't involved in a relegation battle, which you would have taken that 5 years ago as your regular as a season. That would be fantastic. So we overachieved under Eddie Howe. We won a trophy. I think it's we're certainly as a fan base have been brought right back down to earth. And that's it. We've just got to accept that. Yeah, we just got to accept this is where we're at, and hopefully our reset is as successful as Sunderland's was last year. Because we were on this show 12 months ago, going, what on earth are Sunderland doing? Who on earth are these players? And this is never going to work. You can't gel. You can't gel all of these players together and expect to have immediate success. But look what Sunderland did. So yeah, Newcastle are hoping for a similar kind of thing.
It's going to be very interesting to see what happens over the next couple of weeks. Obviously, very on the eve of the season, Newcastle got to spend, really. Now they've got their manager, they've got the team that they need to build, and they've got the money in the bank now. Obviously, they've seen the departures. Now it's time to see some arrivals. And I think when I was saying this last week, Teddy Boy, as well to you, I think they need some arrivals where they're big names. Do you know what I mean? I love the young remit that they're going down, but I think they need some big names, and we'll time to see. But it's over to you, Mr. Mackham, because you're fresh off a USA tour. You've done your Bruce Springsteen, mate. You're back in England, the might of Sunderland, mate. No new signings still. Obviously, still working on a couple. It does look like obviously you've got your new right back, but it looks like. Regis taking a sort of held back approach, waiting for the right deal rather than splashing the cash before a European adventure awaits?
Yeah, this transfer window wasn't always just about who we brought in. And obviously I know a few Sunderland fans are getting a bit concerned. We're actually the only Premier League team so far this window not to spend money on players. So obviously Thomas Meunier was a free transfer in after he left his club. So yeah, listen, James Newton's just absolutely hit the nail on the hammer. This window was mostly about keeping the team together and not letting key players leave. Now that looks like we're achieving that. We're clearing more of, I don't like to speak disrespectful, but we're clearing some of the deadwood out. So the likes of Leo Hjelde looks like he's on his way out as well. I'm not saying my ender was deadwood. Far from it. I still think he's got a brilliant future. But to get 25 million for a guy who sat third choice striker at Sunderland when we weren't scoring an awful lot of goals anyway is great business when he cost us $1 million. Keeping a hold of Xhaka, keeping a hold of the likes of Enzo Lefebvre, keeping Robin Roofs, Mukiele, players like that. That's huge. Well, a huge accomplishment in being able to keep that squad together. So, listen, yes, I do think we need to make some progress with the signings, but like I say, it's only 50% of the story for me. I think this week we'll probably see one or two of those signings actually come into fruition. I fully expect our record transfer fee. Remember, that still stands at only 30 million, saying only, but in today's market, that's like £5 3 years ago. So yeah, I fully expect that record fee will be broken this week. To be honest, I think once we get these, we've got 2 games today actually against Lens in France, and I think as we go towards the last friendly of the season next weekend, sorry, the 22nd it is. I think we'll start to see some of those signings come in. So I'm not worried. I know we need 4 or 5 players. I think, it is going to be a difficult season. Of course, it is. It's not groundbreaking journalism to find that it's not going to be. Everyone knows. Everyone who qualifies for Europe for the first time scores 10 points less than what they did the previous season as an average. So we know the work has got to be done. But the thing is, from my perspective, is I still have 100% faith and 100% trust in the process that the club are going through. They're not going to be bullied into overpaying for players. Talking about the right winger from Sporting Lisbon, Mozambique international, who obviously we're going to get linked with him because of the links with Ronaldo. But we're not going to be bullied into paying 60 million for someone who in essence is worth about 35, 40. It's not going to happen. So I'm sure they've got their list of candidates. They've got the list of people they want in. I think it'll be very much along the same lines of what we did last season. It'll be bolstering the ranks with the likes of players like Siddiqui, maybe a couple of experienced heads in there as well. Anyone talking about Thomas Meunier as a signing, saying what a fantastic sign it is, and it's another one of the same kind of ilk as Xhaka, which I think you need. I think you need those kind of heads around, and I'm sure Steve will agree as well. There's a lot of young players coming into Newcastle United. What's needed to balance that up is just 1 or 2 experienced heads and real good old pros around. Listen, nobody's impervious to that. If you look at what Chelsea have done with Jordan Henderson and Danny Welbeck, Alonso has identified that he needs people who set an example, not just in games, but even just in training. Danny Welbeck at 35 is in absolute peak physical condition, looks after himself properly, trains properly, and I think you need characters like that around your football ground. And whether you're Boro, whether you're Newcastle, whether you're Sunderland, we all have a requirement for those kind of players in your squad. I don't subscribe to this fact that Jordan Henderson is just a cheerleader. I'm sorry, I don't. He's won a hell of a lot of trophies. He might not be the most technically gifted footballer on the planet, but you can't put a price on leadership. And that's what you need. And I think we're starting to build a team of leaders there as well, which I'm very, very excited about. I just want to get to the meat of the season now. I'm sick of watching all the Europa League games and the qualifiers going, come on, August the 28th, just give us the draw. But it's coming. I'm very excited about it. For all there's not a lot of traffic into the stadium at the moment, I'm more than happy with the lack of traffic going out of it.
It's going to be very interesting to see, obviously, if you need to rebuild, or obviously the remit of European. And I mean, look, the story is there. I mean, and the canvas is there that teams that make that European League, struggle because, it's a lot more football. It's a lot more traveling. It's a lot more sort of thing. We heard Dan Byrne talk about it, a couple of years ago when Newcastle were in the thing. And I think we spoke about it, Steve, about how Dan Byrne, it was interesting to see, of how much football he was talking about in a podcast and stuff like that. So it's going to be interesting. But this is what players dream of, is going into the Premier League and playing European football for Premier League. So Sunderland are going to have to do that. It's time for we've spoken about Newcastle, we've spoken about Middlesbrough, we've spoken about Sunderland. It's time to sit back, charge your glass, because it's time for Troll of the Week.
Yes, plenty of people trolling Newcastle United. This one was going on Twitter this week, closing down all stock must go. It's our aim is to be number one. That's the ambition, yes. And if the Newcastle squad was a pizza, and the club photographer doesn't often get much wrong at Newcastle, but this made me giggle. Harvey Barnes signing his new contract with a flower sticking out of his head. Come on, man. Get it. Don't make it easy for trolls, please. Don't make it easy for trolls. I did laugh at this photograph of Anthony Gordon. What on earth? Goodness gracious, great balls of fire. It's
No.
I know he's doing a bit of cabaret in Barcelona as well. And we've got one of those Facebook pictures again where people tend to have names which are easily picked up on, and people end up inboxing them and stuff. Here it is. I'm not reading that out, lads, but yes,
No.
great. And here's a lookalike from Chippers.
Oh, Jesus Christ. That's the stuff of nightmares.
How about Garth Vader? And I like this one as well. I honestly think that Jason Donovan re-released his 1989 song "Too Many Broken Hearts in the World," but replaced the words "broken heart" with effing C-U-N-T. He's got a worldwide hit on his hands.
He's not wrong.
First time trying black cock for Charlie Mason.
Good luck. Apparently you never turn back.
And welcome to the Geordie Star. Except the following: Sandra Tonali, every Mackham ever, Tories, Karens, and if you order Guinness, last people that put pets in prams, and the rat that went to Liverpool. So it's an ever-growing list at the Star there, which is funny. Frank McAvenny, the most exciting thing that happened in the first half at Ibrox was a couple of birds showed up.
Frank would know all about that.
And how about this for a double act? Little and Farage. Astra La Fista, baby. And exclusive, our new manager, MJ, and his staff arrived at La Manga Football Centre at 6 a.m. local time. Very clever. And how about this for a new computer, lads? A colourful rim book.
Yes. Of course, it's all available on the internet now.
This is apparently a comfy sleeper, lads. This is one of the things you don't know you need until you try it. That's real, lads. That is real.
Is it a Kama Sutra?
I think we should all get one Mrs. One anyway for Christmas. And Welbeck and Henderson arriving at Chelsea. Fantastic, that. And I'm sick of sports commentators, lads, saying you couldn't write a script like this. If people can write scripts about dystopian futures in which life is in fact a simulation made by sentient machines to harness humans' heat and electricity as an energy source, they can probably write ones about Gary Taylor Fletcher scoring a last-minute equaliser against Stoke.
Yep.
And I was watching a video the other day of a honey badger scrapping with the pride of lions, then went on to tackle a python, and then have a go at a couple of jackals. They're right little brick shithouses, honey badgers are. Our piss-poor normal badgers, on the other hand, never getting a dust up with anything. In fact, they wait until everything else is in bed before coming out and getting squashed on the A55. David from Houghton in Wigan.
Yeah.
And brand new, this really was the biggest troll of the week for me. This was a picture that was circulated of our poor Sean Sturt, Newcastle United, wearing a Man United top. How man? Give us a break. Newcastle United have been targeted left, right and centre this summer. If you've got any trolls to send us, then send them over to me, Rai or Ted, and we'll feature them on the show.
Welcome back to Through the Crowd, the only Northeast football podcast bringing Newcastle, Middlesbrough and Sunderland fans together. We've spoken about the week that was. Let's look ahead at the future. And lads, I wanted to draw your attention to this because we got caught out last night in the first laws of the game. Now, obviously, the laws of the games have changed again, obviously coming off the back of World Cup where we saw some changes coming to fruition. Luckily, hydration breaks haven't come in yet. But I just want to read these out to you, and I'm going to talk to you about one that we got caught out. So the laws of the game, the selected changes for the 26-27 season. If a match is stopped or delayed for a non-contact goalkeeper injury, the team must play with 10 men for 1 minute. 5-second countdown if a team is taking too long with a goal kick or a throw-in. Outfield players treated on the pitch must leave and remain off it for 1 minute after players restarted. Players covering their mouth in a confrontational situation, we saw this at the World Cup, with an opponent will receive a red card. And a substituted player must leave the pitch within 10 seconds. Now, last night, Will Lancashire was substituted in the 70th minute, and he took more than 10 seconds to get off. So we had to wait 1 minute before our new substitute could come on. Now, Teddy boy, we got caught out. I didn't know that was a new rule, especially the substitute. I obviously knew a few of them because they happened in the World Cup, but the substitution of a player leaving the pitch within 10 seconds, Will Lancashire was gassed, right? And he was on the opposite end of the pitch. The board's just gone up. You're coming off, Will. He gets, it's his first, he scored a goal. He's given the claps, and we get in trouble for it. We had to wait for a minute before Finn Cartwright, the substitute player, was allowed to come on. I don't know about that law, mate, but what do you feel about all those laws that I've just ringled off for the new season?
I think they needed to happen. Listen, Sunderland played with the dark arts a little bit last season as well. I know that Elborg went down a couple of times at Leeds and incurred the wrath of the Leeds United fans. Mm-hmm. Listen, I'm all for a little bit of shithousery, but time wasting is listen, it had to be addressed. And it's actually good to see some sensible rules come in. I like the one about the substitutes as well, because too many times we've seen, players just traipsing off. You never, ever get that same amount of time added on at the end by a referee. I don't care what anybody says. So anything that gets rid of time wasting is a great one for me. I mean, in Lancashire, I didn't see the incident itself, mate, but they're playing a massive big rectangle. He could have quite easily gone off at the nearest part of the touchline or I was going to say end zone. Oh my God, I've been watching too many American sports. Jesus Christ, that's unforgivable.
We're going to edit that out.
Yeah, it's all right. We'll snip it before it goes live. Yeah, he could go off at either end of the goal line, mate. He can go off either side. So there's no excuse to take more than 10 seconds to get off the pitch for a substitution. Great play, great to see him get on the score sheet as far as from a Boro perspective. But yeah, let's not bugger about. Let's get these players off. Let's get the game actually moving. There's too little time of the ball being actually in play in a football match as it is. So let's crack on. Let's stamp down on the time wasting. Big fan of any measure that comes in to help that out.
Steve, your thoughts on those new laws that are coming into
the game? Sorry, Daniel.
Yeah, I mean, look, we do need to crack down on time wasting. Tom had put it in the chat early doors. English football have agreed a trial period to eradicate the goalkeeper injury tactical timeout. The coach has got 10 seconds to select an outfield player to leave the field for 1 minute, and if he doesn't, then the captain has to go off for a minute. Look, the problem with those kind of rules is that it's how the officials enforce them. And I won't name the guy, but when I was on holiday a few weeks ago in Greece, I bumped into an old Premier League / Championship referee and linesman, and we spent a bit of time chatting about various things. And he was saying that is one of the big things that they're going to try and do, clamp down on time wasting. And I was running through the rules of the game, and I mean, like, I didn't realise that the 6-second rule is now an 8-second rule. But still, it's not enforced. Goalkeepers have carte blanche to waste time, and they eat the clock up more than anybody else. So I do really think that they do need to clamp down on it. But the laws have to be enforceable. And referees have to be on the ball. I'll always pick out Michael Oliver, and it's not because he's black and white, but he is a very good referee. He's one of our best referees, if not the best referee in the country at the moment. But he's one of those who does tend to try and enforce the rules. He was one of the, he's one of the first people who went to VAR and overturned the decision. And I think that's key. Really, it's how we use the technology. We've said it time and time again until we're all, red and white and black and white in the face. We're sick of the technology being misused by people. The technology's great. It's just not being used by the officials correctly. I've heard a rumor, and I'm not sure how true it is, but within a few years, the goal line technology is going to be extended to the touch lines, and we won't have linesmen. Linesmen will be phased out of the game. So you'll have a referee, you'll have a second official on the sidelines, you'll have the VAR reps, but we won't have linesmen anymore. So, that will be literally, the technology will come in. If the ball's out, the referee will get a notification on his watch and we'll move on. It'll be a throw in automatically. So, but yeah, the time wasting is ridiculous. And there is a lot of shithousery. Newcastle were very good at it a couple of years ago under Eddie Howe. Arsenal and Arteta have become the experts at that now. They are. Whatever happened to surrounding the referee, lads? That happens all the time now as well. The big teams are constantly harassing and haranguing the referee. And we've got the technology. We had ref cam last year, where it's not the greatest way of seeing things. It's nice sometimes to see where the referee was positioned when an incident happens. But they've got the technology. They just need to use it properly.
It's going to be very interesting to see. Breaking news as well. Middlesbrough have just signed their number one goalkeeper, Radek Vitek, has just signed, announced by the club. New number one in the books. He had a fantastic spell at Bristol City on loan, and we have signed him on a permanent from Manchester United. Welcome to Boro, Radek. That is a massive signing for Middlesbrough, who needed to address some goalkeeper. And it wasn't an addressing of the goalkeeper. It was more of creating competition for Sol. Sol was excellent last night, but what a signing that could prove to be. It's going to be very interesting to see if those new laws of the games catch anyone else out like they did Middlesbrough last night. Teddy boy, Sunderland, looking ahead, mate. We've got a couple of weeks now before the Premier League season kicks off. We've got a week before Middlesbrough kick off. We're going to get predictions for them soon. What do Sunderland need to do in this next window, mate? In the next couple of weeks, are we looking for a new signing before we kick off the season to create your expectations a little bit higher? Or are you happy to go in status quo as it seems?
I think there'll be about 3 bodies in there by the time we actually kick off against Ipswich. I know the club's pretty close to 1 or 2 in the next week. So yeah, I expect a few new faces in. I don't think an awful lot will change in terms of starting lineup. Why mess with something that was clearly working last season? This is about preparing the squad for European football. Right now, as it stands, I know the bench is a little weak. Looking at it, there's not an awful lot of options on there, but we could start a couple of Premier League games and have the nucleus of a squad there. Yeah, we need to fatten the squad out, though. That's the thing. It's been able to replace players with others of a similar or better standard, and that's always going to be the trick. For me, the absolute focus of the season, and I don't care what anybody says, and I'll get shut down for it, it's survival. It's Premier League survival. Again, that's exactly what we have to target. It's it's going to be great. First time in my lifetime, might be the only time in my lifetime, I get to see Sunderland play European football. Football's weird like that. If you'd said to me when us 3 first met, and we were struggling in League One and then struggling in the Championship as well, and then finally got out of there. If you told me the first time I met you lads that I'd be going to watch European football this season, I'd have laughed at you. It's unbelievable what's happened, but it's got to be treated. Yes, it's got to be treated with respect because it's a serious competition. It's next to the Champions League, there's some absolute elite clubs in the Europa League. There's the likes of Juventus. There's the likes of the Sporting Lisbons of this world. There's big clubs going to be in there. So it's going to be treated with respect. However, it is not the focus. And somebody else has already mentioned there that the Premier League has to take priority. I absolutely agree with that. 100% I agree with that. Let's blood some youngsters in the cup competitions. Again, I'm not really that fussed. I love the FA Cup. I'd love to see us win it again, especially with it being 90 years since we last won it. Since we first won it. It would be lovely to get to a final like that. It's just not a priority. We've got to maintain Premier League football status. That's the biggest thing out the whole lot. I think we will. I genuinely believe that the 3 teams that have come up will go straight back down. I don't think they've got enough about them. I would love to see Coventry finish bottom with a lot. We know that, but that's a different story. We will survive, but it's got the Premier League survival, mate. That's what it's all about.
Steve, obviously expectations keep changing minute by minute at Newcastle United. The mission is clear for Middlesbrough. It's to get promoted. Obviously, we're spending big. We've lost the likes of Hayden Hackney. We've lost the likes of Dale Fry as well, 2 homegrown talents. And obviously, we're sick of seeing big players leave our club, obviously. And that's what happens in the Championship. But you're obviously, you're having a window like that now. What's the expectations now as a Newcastle fan sitting here right now for this season ahead?
So difficult because the window is open till the 1st of September. I was buoyed with the response about Lewis Hall yesterday. Lewis Hall is going nowhere, is what the club said. I don't expect him to leave. That's good. We need to be building the team around Lewis Hall. Newcastle United's transfer window is still open. I don't think we'll see many more go. I think Nick Pope will leave. I think he'll go to another Premier League team. I think that it's been made quite clear that the 2 goalkeepers that we've signed are ahead of him. Other than that, I expect some incomings. We have been linked, which seems to have split the fan base again. I'm not really sure why. With somebody with a bit of experience in Højbjerg, Danish captain, Marseille captain, 31-year-old, got a bit about him. Some people saying that's not a good shout. I think it is a good shout. I think it would be good to sign somebody with a bit of experience in the midfield for 15 million quid and get a couple of years out of him, because we definitely need that. We do need full back cover. We still got Livramento and Hall on either side, but we need people coming in. We definitely need a full back. We definitely need at least a little bit of bolster in the midfield, because we've lost 3 players in the midfield. We've signed a couple, of course. We've signed a winger and we've signed another midfielder, but maybe one more midfielder, and we certainly could do with some bolstering up front. I still think we could do with another striker if we could get one, but we've lost some key players. We've lost a little bit in that back four. The back four is an aging back four. I've pointed this out a couple of times this week. 85 goals we shipped last season. And I know that was a lot of it was down to the fact that we had lots of injuries. We lost some key players at some key times. It's going to be an exciting season this season. You're asking what I'm expecting. It's hard to predict until we see where we're at with the transfer window. But I think Ted's right. And he, in the WhatsApp group this week, he was saying that there will be 3 teams. The 3 teams that come up will probably go straight back down. It's so difficult to predict. I'm gonna say they probably finish around about the same place as they did last season. There is I keep saying this. There's a top and there's a bottom. There's no middle anymore, because Newcastle win 2 games against anybody last season. And Newcastle are in Europe, but we didn't, and we ended up finishing 12th. I think 12th's probably realistic. Maybe a little cup run in the Carabao Cup and the FA Cup again. I think depending on the draws. I think probably 12th with the squad that we've got at this moment in time, as we speak now, is probably realistic. If we keep a hold of Joe Linton, we've got Harvey Barnes, we've got that experience in the back four in Byrne and Shaw, and we've got the young players who come in as well. We've got Asula, who finished the season on a high. We've got to get the best out of Alanga, Wisser and Walter Mara. If we get the best out of them, we could really be a surprise package this season. Everyone's writing us off. We've got everything going against us. There's passion there. There was no passion, and we always point back to the Derby games. Newcastle were passionless in both Derby games. We've now got a young, enthusiastic manager and a young, enthusiastic squad who want to show what they can do.
Do you think he'll get it? Do you think he'll get the magnitude of the Sunderland derby?
I don't think Eddie Howe didn't get it. I mean, I just think it was just Eddie shot his bolt, for want of a better expression, last season. he was knackered, he got pneumonia, and he just didn't have that drive. And I just think it was that kind of Brian Clough adage, that the repetition, training, speeches, team talks, it became something that the players just couldn't respond to anymore.
Yeah.
This new guy, looking at the pictures that have been, the videos that have been put out now on social media, he's driving them in a different direction. He talks a good game. He wants to attack. He wants to entertain. By the sounds of it, he may play a slightly different formation. So look, let's see what happens. Let's just see what happens. But I think if we're capable of finishing 12th, we're capable of finishing in the top 8 and getting Europe again. So you just don't know. But at the moment, I'm not going to get too carried away like some people seem to be. But on the flip side, I'm a lot happier than I was probably midweek when I did my show, where I was the whole Bruno thing got to us. So I think 12's probably realistic, but anything else is a bonus.
Well, it's obviously for Middlesbrough, we're going to win it all. It's crazy. We're going to win the Carabao Cup, the FA Cup, Champions League, Championship, and then we're going to be the first team to be promoted to be in the Champions League as well, which is going to be crazy as well, because we're winning the lot, especially after signing a new goalkeeper that I think is Mark Schwarzer 2.0, except that he's not Australian, he's Czech. But we'll see, we'll look past that. It's going to be a massive season.
We've got a goalkeeper called Horny, which is that's his nickname, which is.
It's a big upgrade from Pope, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? Not only in the pants department. I mean, look at
Classic.
Right, final question, lads. I just want to, because we are in the window. Steve, you've seen more outgoings. Teddy boy, you haven't seen as many outgoings. You've seen one outgoing. Middlesbrough are literally just throwing money like the Saudi Arabian prince that Steve Gibson is. I want to get the last sort of remit for you. If I gave you a blank check tomorrow, Teddy boy, for Sunderland, and said, go and sign the one player that you want, mate, who is it?
Dear me, that's a hell of a one to land on me. Good grief. Do you know, I'd love to see there, and I think he would fit in because he's got a little bit of bite about him. I don't think he's absolutely massively out of our range. I'm going to talk sensibly here, by the way. I'm not going to go fantasy and go daft and say Lionel Messi, somebody like that. Somebody like Alexis McAllister. I would love to see somebody of his style. I think a good footballer, got a bit of edge about him. If we don't know what's going to happen with Liverpool this season, he's the sort of player that could just fall out of favour. I think he's got ability for days. I love him. Feeling that if we're talking ridiculous signings, Szoboszlai, I think is a wonderful, wonderful midfielder.
Yeah. I'm going to have to say Mikey Moore, and I actually still think it'll be done. Now, we saw Mikey Moore on loan at Rangers last season, but I still think Middlesbrough are going to obviously announce the signings of VTech already. They're going to announce the signings of Ash Phillips. But we need pace. We still need that one player that just creates pace and creates havoc against a low-blocking, wet night at Stoke in the middle of the week. And I think Mikey Moore could be that player. The move to FC Cologne has just been put on hold as well. So hold your breath there, Middlesbrough fans. But I still think we need one pacey winger. If it was for me, if I had a blank check, I'd be going for Mikey Moore. Steve, last one on you, mate. Obviously, with you've actually pretty much got a blank check, I would say. I mean, is there one player that you would bring in that would just bring an absolute smile to your face?
Harry Kane.
Harry Kane?
For a couple of years at Newcastle United, to beat Shearer's record and to be the man who scores the goals, because Harry Kane can score goals, and I think he'd still do it in the Premier League. And I think even just for 2 years, from a PR perspective, from a merchandise perspective, commercial perspective, but also from a football player perspective, I think Kane would be great. Newcastle United's kind of player as well. We need somebody who's going to be a number 9 who can put the ball in the back of the net. But you're saying it's a blank check, and if you can persuade him to come. But yeah, I would go. We need a good old fashioned number 9, because whenever Newcastle have been struggling, as long as you've got somebody who can score goals, everything seems all right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's, you might concede 3, but as long as you score 4, everything's all right. And it's just, I'd love that.
It's going to be an interesting transfer window still to come. Middlesbrough still not done. And obviously, Sunderland, Newcastle still not done as well. Maybe we've seen a massive window not come to an end. There's still a couple of more weeks till the Premier League goes off. And lads, we've got Middlesbrough kicking off next weekend. I would have to be remiss. I do apologise, and I'm running over time. But Middlesbrough kick off their season this week. Give us your quick predictions. Middlesbrough taking on Lincoln City in the first game of the EFL Championship before we come back. It's going to be interesting to see 2 games at the Riverside. We saw them win last night, and it's newly promoted Lincoln that will come in. It looks like we're going to have a fair few new signings in the door as well. I'm going to have to say 3-0 to Middlesbrough. I mean, if we're anything serious, a team that's been promoted into our league, we were top end. I'm going to say 3-0, Teddy boy.
Yeah, to be honest, I can see a 3-0 win there. And if you want my prediction, for the Championship this season, West Ham will finish top, Middlesbrough will finish second, Wrexham will win the playoffs.
Ooh,
quote me on that. Bookmark me.
Steve, the Championship kicks off next weekend, a week before the Premier League. Make Middlesbrough take on Lincoln, the newly promoted team from League One.
Yeah, I think it could be a bit tighter than you guys, but I'll still say Boro to win 2-1. And if you want a prediction for the league, I do think West Ham will win it. I do think West Ham will win it. I think Boro will finish second, and I think Wolves will win the playoffs.
Oh, wow, there you go. There you go. The predictions are in, and the future has been foretold right here with the 3 Messiahs. I hope you've all had a fantastic time watching Three's a Crowd. We're going to wrap it up there. We'll be back next week where we look on to the eve of the Premier League. Middlesbrough would have kicked off their season as well. It is coming again very, very fast, lads, and it's going to be very interesting to see where we all finish up. I mean, I can't believe that it feels like a couple of weeks. It feels like the season just ended and we're already back. We're kicking things off again, and I can't believe it. And it's the World Cup. Maybe I've made things feel a little bit quicker, but we're back. We're on the eve of the season, and it's going to be massive. Do not miss a minute right here on Three's a Crowd. Thank you to Steve. Thank you to Teddy Boy, and thank you to all of you tuning in, leaving your comments down below. And we hope you've enjoyed the show. Hope you enjoyed the post. We'll be back next week for right here on Three's a Crowd.
Three's a Crowd podcast will return. That's not a threat, it's a promise.